So I'll say a few things about, and I have some slides. I'm not sure if I'm going to actually click through them or not because it's not clear that they, because what I really want to talk about is the journey I started back in 2002 when I came back to Rice University to engage with the energy industry. So my background, I'm an electrical engineer, signal processing by training, applied mathematician basically, and always had an interest in working with the energy industry. And I was somewhat floored by the fact that as a university we didn't have a good engagement. You know, there were pockets of engagement with the energy industry, but we didn't really have broad engagements with them. So I kind of set out to do that. And I met up with Keith Gray very early on in those conversations, and we kind of were talking about we need to create a community around that. We need to sort of build on that. And this was really before we realized the real hard problem we were facing for the industry was that the competition that Keith had to hire somebody wasn't really Exxon and Shell. Well, they were, but the real competition was Google, Facebook, Amazon, Intel, you name it. That's the industry that was computing, especially as he moved from trying to hire, not necessarily an earth scientist, because that's necessarily what Keith wanted to hire. He wanted to hire a computer scientist, a computational scientist, and as you move closer to computer science in a discipline, the harder that became because those kids wanted to go to the Bay Area, to Boston, to Austin. I'm sad to say, but happy for you guys. But we were in the middle of the hotbeds of Houston. So let me see, I have one chart here. I'm going to click past a few things here because I don't want to show this. The slides will be available. By the way, this one was an interesting IDC as a sidebar, just showing why we cared about this at Rice. IDC did a study for us, and one of the quotes that came back in the study was, we had expertise. We didn't need to build expertise. We needed to leverage the expertise we had in a much bigger way. But this was the chart I wanted to show, and this was the one that really drove home the importance of us thinking about this industry. We clearly had the expertise in computational science and engineering. We've done that for almost 40 years at Rice. At the time, you know, now, and 30 years back when I started this conversation, within 30 miles, radius of 30 miles of Rice University, you know, there's probably about 3,000 companies in the oil and gas industry. Well, they're all hiring and increasingly in a digital workforce sense. So thinking about this, I started working with Keith, and you know, it took us a while, and at some point we said, why don't we start bringing these people together? Let's bring the academics together with the oil and gas industry, together with the IT industry, to have a conversation, to have a discussion about that. And this was actually how we formed the conference we run annually. And I think the conference really is a venue that drives this together. Because as I said, I didn't need to create new courses. We were already teaching the courses in computational, in parallel programming, in numerical methods, you name it. So we were teaching the courses. But we didn't bridge the students to that industry. So that was really the focus of what we were working on. And so more of a student engagement. So this was certainly the impetus for that when we realized that. And then we had, as I said, we had expertise in tools, we had expertise in numerical methods, we had expertise in geomathematical imaging. So we were doing all the research that they cared about. How do we translate that into hires for the industry? You know, and how do we then sharpen our programs even more so? So, you know, so that's what led to the private-public partnership, if you will, loosely referred to, where we got together with industry, the IT industry, the oil and gas industry, the IT industry, and sort of what I considered academia. National labs, I'm still working on that one. I want more participation from this. So it's a little bit of a challenge to the national lab representatives here. I'd love to see more of you engaged in this forum. But it was to look at how do we build a workforce that can support the cyber infrastructure operation development challenges, sustain, you know, the workforce that they need to hire. Not necessarily the earth scientists, but them too. You know, how do we engage? How do we, you know? So, you know, this led to the conference. I'd like to show the statistics because this is basically, you know, the growth from 2008 when we started the conference. We were slow starting, Keith. I realized that. Now, we should have started in 2003 or 4 because we actually had the idea back then. We just never executed on it. But, you know, even in 2016, this spring, with oil prices down, this conference grew slightly, you know, only marginally. However, it shows that this is actually still hot, and what I often think of as there is a return on investment to the industry to make these investments. That means that they are looking for talent. The industry is coming and they're hiring people, they're interviewing, because part of the event is a poster session with students. And the IT companies pack up and leave. The academics stay, the oil and gas industry stays, to the bitter end talking to students. Because and that's part of where the transition happens. Because now the students that are at RISE studying these programs that are relevant to them, they are actually realizing that there are incredibly interesting problems to work on. I don't have to fly to the Bay Area to work on cool computational science. I can do that right here in Houston. And that's somewhat of an eye-opener to them. And we have never presented it because we take it for granted that they find their own way. But you really have to show them and have them, and then they get invited to do internships, and they learn about the kinds of problems they can work on, and the challenging numerical problems, and the systems they can get exposed to working on, which is actually sort of the next one down from the national labs. So that has have a profound impact on many students. As a result, the industry, I think, are slowly taking up on being able to land recruits from RISE. As a result, we are a small institution. We're not going to fill all their needs. However, every one matters to them because we are actually producing them and we're exposing them to them. We're creating the opportunities. Students discover that this is an industry that I am interested in working. And I'm actually comfortable living in Houston because I've been there doing my degree. And for somebody even living down the road 150 miles, moving to Houston is a little bit of a barrier. I don't get it, but I live there, so.
Yeah, the choice is living in Austin.
Yeah, wow. So to me, so that's one of also the advantages we have. We're actually in the backyard. We were within 30 miles of almost any one of those companies. So that's the other piece that actually we have. So students have already located, they've acclimated to living in Houston. It's not foreign for them to live there because they know there's things to do when you're not at work doing cool stuff. One of the concerns, of course, I had about, when we started this was, will I draw evenly, or will it just be academics? Will it just be the IT industry coming, or will it just be the oil and gas industry? And this is the typical demographic of the attendee. As I said, oil and gas industry, it's about 30 to 40%, vary over the years. Academia, 15, 16%. IT industry, largely there to sponsor the event, to support the event, to help drive that network and help maintain that network. So it's really appreciative of all the companies there. As I said, there's a sliver there called national labs. It's a challenge to you guys to bring them. We usually get more national lab attendance when we have one or two speakers from them. So we'll work on that, and I'm open to suggestions for the program. We're starting to talk about that. But this is the other piece of it. So as part of the workshop, we were also able to start leveraging and get funding for students, to support students in their programs. So companies sponsor directly. The conference itself, revenues that are above and beyond what it costs to run the conference is going into funding students. These are not full fellowships. We give them a supplemental, either as recruiting fellowships to help us attract students to RISE to do their PhD, master's degrees, or students that are in the program to create awareness about the oil and gas industry and the kinds of challenges there. But over the years, since back to 2002, which we had a few fellowships before that, we have actually raised about $750,000 that had been awarded to students. Clearly, as soon as the conference started, the amount of money we were able to raise increased dramatically. And so this is the dollars per year. You see the scholarship amounts have gone up lately. We're starting to invest in trying to bring students to RISE. So the amount of money that we invest in every student is going up just to make it more attractive. But we're trying to take students from wanting to go somewhere else. So we're trying to use money as one of those attractors. And so this to us has been because it creates a body of students that are now interested in pursuing computational science again. So that's the key thing. For 2016, we're just in the midst of it, so we don't know what the numbers are going to be. Where or how are the fellowships allocated? I mean, we get nominations from departments or faculty. They're usually going into applied math at RISE, computer science, earth science, electrical and computer engineering, statistics, and applied physics. Again, all disciplines that are highly relevant for the oil and gas industry, and I think that very few of the fellowships have gone to any department outside that. So that's the other thing. Most of them goes to the first two, computational math and computer science, because that's where, applied math has a long history of actually placing their students in the energy industry. Computer science have now several been placed in there, so that's a new thing. I said we used to support students that were already in the program in the early years. We switched now to really start using the money to help shining the light on the programs we're offering. And we primarily support masters and PhDs, so we're not supporting the professional programs. Although we did, because of this relationship with industry, create, or actually we kind of brought back a program called Computational Science and Engineering, somewhat similar to what you have at Munich, although we're not as bold as you. We actually do just mix 3 departments. So I love the program, so now I'm going to go back home and then think about how I can do what you guys are doing. But it's a 30 credit hours balance between computer science, applied math, and statistics. So you force the student to have breadth, and then they can focus on one, and then they can take electives outside. So it's a lot of similarity, but there's no tailor-made courses just for this like you have, which I kind of really like. I also miss we don't do the software engineering course, and I think that's an important one. Problem is 30 credit hours for a professional degree, it's hard to squeeze more into it. So this is basically a 3-semester if you're a full-time student. You can also take it as a part-time student. The other thing we're doing, similar to what Melissa talked about, we do boot camps or summer institutes. Again, we would not have done this if it wasn't for our engagement with the energy industry. So we do a high-performance computing boot camp. It's a 1 week. And then we do a data science boot camp. And, we have not quite as many people as you guys have. We have order of 20, 25 in each of them, and have done that since 2009. So, again, it's another pipeline that make it, create and tissue the network between the industry and us. Most of ours, almost all of them are industry participants. Very few are academic in our classes. So, again, this is really targeted at helping the kids of the world to hire talent, send them to us, and then have them sort of bring them up the ramp. And we've had several that send their interns, because we do it in early summer, part of the summer, so they send their summer interns. So we can get them for a week, we train them, they go back, and they have a much more productive summer. So that's one of the things that's been very successful. So that's all I had. I'm trying to finish early, and just want to let you know, since I have been selling this to the national labs, March 15 and 16, call for abstracts are out. So with that, I'm going to close here, and I know you have some questions planned. So.